youtube.com/MayhewMayhem. That's youtube.com/MayhewMayhem.
Hello and welcome to another episode of 30 Minutes of Mayhem. I am your host, my name is Michael Mayhew, and I am here with my co-hosts.
What's up, everybody? It's me, Greg. We are once again joined by the man who has to pay women to pleasure his wife.
Nick from youtube.com/TicTacMan. And joining us is our intern, Emmanuel.
Hola.
Don't fucking speak.
You're not allowed to speak. Fuck, never mind.
He's not allowed to speak, and you're not capable of it. As I said, welcome to 30 Minutes of Mayhem, the podcast your mother can be ashamed of. And tell me, Nick, why is this the podcast your mother can be ashamed of?
Well, because it took me 6 months to give her a Christmas gift.
That is exactly correct. You can help us continuing to make podcasts vulgar again by donating to 30minutesofmayhem@gmail.com. And now, with that being said, let's take a quick commercial break.
Welcome to my mini mart. How may I help you?
Put the money in the bag!
So, how do you guys feel about virtual reality?
You know, honestly, I kind of feel like it's gonna be the future of gaming.
I really think it's just gonna go the way of motion controls, you know, like a dodo.
See, the only thing I want it for is just that POV porn to where you got it on, but I just think about, like, imagine you have your Google Cardboard on, you got the headset on, you're just fucking going to town on yourself, and then your parents walk in or whatever, your whole fucking family's there.
Shut up!
You're caressing my face with a gun. If you're going to rob me, that's fine. Just please don't kill me.
Rob you? No. We're supplying you with a product for the donation you're about to make.
But could you please take the gun out of my mouth?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I get carried away sometimes. You know, you could have easily prevented this by donating via PayPal using 30minutesofmayhem@gmail.com.
Of course. I will like and share on Facebook. I will do anything. Dios míos.
Oh. Well, shit. I, did not mean for that to happen.
We need to get the fuck out of here.
Just been curious, I've been thinking about this a lot lately for some reason. Have you guys ever wondered what it would look like if Jabba the Hutt would have fucked Princess Leia in Return of the Jedi?
All the time. In fact, sometimes I wake up in a cold sweat thinking about it.
I actually think I saw a video that was about that.
I think I helped produce the video that was about that.
If you can picture what that would look like, that's what it looks like when myself and my significant other perform coitus.
Ooh, self-burn. Those are rare.
Not for him.
No, I know.
It's what he eat, breathes, piss, and shits.
Oh, same here, man. Same here.
Insert lip-licking gif on Facebook Messenger of Jabba the Hutt. The reason why I bring up what that looks like is I've always felt like for years that I have this issue where when I see people, I constantly am picturing them naked. And I don't know why that is, but then when I see couples, I'm always picturing what they look like fucking. This has been an issue for pretty much like my entire life, at least since my balls started to drop. I've never really publicly talked about it that much, and I'm just curious your guys' thoughts on if you guys do it too, if you picture other people naked or picture couples fucking or anything of that nature.
Oh man, that's just fucking weird.
Oh, of course. Yeah, you know, fucking kink shame us. God. Fucking jackass.
Go back to Tumblr, you kink shamer.
Yeah, I actually, for the longest time, I thought I was the only one who did that. Like, I thought I was, like, one of the only people who ever, like, thought, I wonder what they look like bumping uglies. Like, I was always afraid to ask other people if they ever thought that, too, because it's like, that's such a weird thing to ask. Like, to be like, hey, do you ever wonder what it looks like when you see two random people having sex, and be like, no, and I'm like, oh, okay, good, neither do I.
Yeah, why would I do that? That's fucking weird, man.
Were you picturing those people boning like me, or am I alone in this? I'm guilty of these thoughts. I've done the same. But it's two different things, right? It's like you're either wondering, like, hey, you know, they probably have some pretty normal sex. And then there's the other part where there's the other demographic of people that you're looking at and you're wondering, like, how?
Yeah, I think that works. I don't tag every person and be like, how do they fuck? No, it's like those couples, you know, the ones you're like, how the fuck does that work?
Yeah, really.
It's just like a human marvel. You don't understand all the inner workings, but you're just like fascinated by it.
You ever seen a female and you're like, I bet money, I'm willing to put money down that she does ass to mouth?
I Can't say I have.
Oh,
But
me
I
neither.
don't know
I don't know why I brought it up. I just it's just
Every time I walk into Walmart, that's all I can think.
And then there's people to where you're like, I wonder if they've ever accepted money for sexual acts. You just look at them and you're like, you've definitely sucked a dick for like crack, like, or possibly even marijuana, or possibly Tylenol. You're looking at them and you're like, I know that this is more than likely a thing.
I need an ibuprofen. Here's one. Hey, I didn't even ask for this. What the fuck's going on? Stop that. Stop it. Stop it right now.
So then I want to put the image in your head of like the rest of you, like picture of what Greg would look like just using his fleshlight before he astro projects. He's just fucking going to town on that shit. So it's like too hot in his room because he's just fucking just fast as fuck going at it, and he's got like multiple beads of sweat like rolling down between his man tits onto like his fucking gut as it rolls around into his gut, and it's starting to pull on like his pappus above his dick and balls, and like it's fucking adding to the sound. It's adding to it, so it's got a little bit of water in that sound too, and it's like
little slosh to it.
Yeah, a little bit of slosh to it. That's a good way to put it.
That smosh slosh. Yes.
And I wonder when like he astro projects, if like he hits like rigor mortis, or if like he just like lets go and just starts like levitating like he's Christ, or how that looks.
I like the idea of him going stiff like one of those goats and just falling over. That's normally what I think about when I masturbate. Greg just going stiff as a rock like a goat and falling over.
So I have this issue, and like it's literally with almost like every single couple pretty much. I picture it. I don't know why.
It's because you were meant to work in the porn industry.
Possibly. I'm not going to sit here and say that I haven't thought like, oh, with Nick and some of his exes, looked at like them, and I'm like, ew. And then I'm like, hang on, that's just probably, oh god, that's probably a fucking horrible sight of him just of him plowing her.
Well, the worst is when you imagine it when you see like two people who you know are just like ugly. Like you just see a couple and then you're just like, oh my god, they're so ugly. And then you're just like, oh my god, why did I think of them having sex? Oh god, why?
He keeps turning into Bill Clinton lately. Has anyone else realized that?
Oh god, I can't believe it, doesn't.
He continued off of what I said about Nick plowing a particular one of his exes. I'm not going to mention her by name, but let's just say, ew. And he was like, when you picture two ugly people fucking, he just built off the back of that. So I think
yeah,
he's,
right. That's what I was
well, because that's what I thought you were implying, that like she was ugly. So like I was thinking about like
I wasn't implying. I think I was pretty straightforward with that.
Yeah, but,
whatever,
but
you know what I
went
mean.
Straight for the kill.
And with Emmanuel and one of his exes, I pictured the same thing. I'm like, how does she let that happen? You know?
Wow. Which one, motherfucker?
I'm not...
I mean, let's be frank here. Only one of them was actually your girlfriend, so.
Oh.
I'm not gonna name drop. Yeah, so I'm like, why does she let that happen? And then with Nick, I'm like, how does he do that? And then I think about it, that it's Nick, and I'm like, I know exactly how he does that. And then with most of mine, I'm
tainted candy.
Speaking of tainted candy, Nick, when you moved, did you leave the children in your other basement?
Oh fuck! I just remembered them. Oh shit! I don't have enough room, and I can't dig here for like a well in my basement. You know what? They probably just started eating each other. There's probably a couple left. I should probably go pick them up.
They might be too old now. And then you know,
it has been a couple months.
With my current significant other, I pretty much ask the same question I do with Emmanuel. I'm like, why does she let me do that?
I know, right?
So, yeah. So I felt like I've had that issue, and it's an ongoing thing. I have people that live around me to where the female is essentially the equivalent to a 2x4. No curse, is what I'm saying, at all. She looks like Nick's direct target audience.
My demographic.
His demographic, if you will. 11-year-olds, and that's what
11-year-olds. I love that.
So that's what she looks like. I mean, like, she's like a grown-ass woman, but like she's the equivalent to a 2x4. She got like stick legs and like a stick body and like stick arms. She's literally like the human version of a stick figure. 0 T0A, like nothing. And I'm like,
So pretty much like she looks like she's so thin that if you tried to have sex with her, you'd probably break her in half.
yeah, pretty much it is the stereotypical definition that I use of like not wanting to fuck a skeleton or hungry hippo, right? She is the skeleton part of it. Person I see her with is relatively buff. Like, I mean, he could still wipe his own ass. He's not like to the point to where he's so buff that he can't wipe his own ass. And I'm like, he probably like picks her up,
Splits
like,
that shit.
and just like he's like, just go stiff like a board, and then he picks her up by like her shins because she weighs nothing, and she's like the equivalent to a 2x4, and he's literally just jerking off with a 2x4. That's what I assume it looks like. And I also assume that she's one of those type of people that is really into ass to mouth. So listeners, let us know if this is an issue that you deal with personally and what you think that we look like when performing coitus with our significant others, or in Greg's case, well, can we really call your fleshlight your significant other at this point? Have you named it?
No, I mean I might be a pathetic piece of shit, but I'm not like that pathetic. At least not yet.
He's like, get that dick fleshy.
If you'd like to help us with our chronic illnesses, you can donate to.
You could. We would like to hear your thoughts on it, or name suggestions for Greg's fleshlight is also greatly appreciated. You could hit us up on Twitter. You can email us 30minutesmayhem@gmail.com. If you want for us to seek Jesus for our mental disease that we have, you can donate 30minutesmayhem@gmail.com on PayPal, and we will put that money straight into the collection plate when we go to see Jesus. And by that I mean we will use it for other things that's not that. So with that being said, I feel like we have really, really done the Lord's work with this topic. So let's take a quick commercial break.
You ever been watching bukkake porn and want to hear something other than the guys groaning as they burst on the girl's face? Well, I have the solution for you. 30 Minutes of Mayhem gives you an enjoyable listening experience, and it's easily accessible on YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, and Spreaker, while watching a girl getting bathed in and gargle gallons of guy goo. 30 Minutes of Mayhem, the podcast your mother can be ashamed of.
This is Nostalgia Bomb. Hello everyone and welcome back to Nostalgia Bomb, the show where we go over all of the nostalgic topics. This is episode 94, so today we will be going over one of the most infamous things to ever occur in 1994, the suicide of Kurt Cobain. Guys, let's go ahead and talk about it.
Courtney Love did it. Next topic. I'm not fucking laughing.
I know, neither am I. Oh wait, yes I am. Never mind.
I
I suck at this.
feel
Come on, just say it. Just say it. He deserved to die. Blah blah blah. He molested guitars. Come on, get it out.
Guitars.
Yeah, Mike has a distinct hatred for Kurt Cobain's guitar playing.
Oh.
So Kurt Cobain was a great lyricist, a pretty decent song composer. He did to guitars what Nick does to children. He should have never picked up a guitar, should have left it to others. The Foo Fighters wouldn't be as big as what they are right now if Kurt Cobain wouldn't have killed himself or got killed, whatever. And
Well, I mean, you're not wrong about that. I mean, let's face it. I mean, Dave
What
Grohl
the-
never would have started the Foo Fighters had like Kurt Cobain, not killed himself. I mean, because the whole reason he started it was because, Kurt died. So he had to find another band to continue making music with.
I mean, he had another band to continue making music with. He did this because he wanted to do some experimental shit, and some of it's really good, and some of it's really doo-doo.
I think that Nirvana wouldn't be as notorious as what they are right now if the suicide/murder, whichever way you want to view it, I view it as a suicide, others view it as murder, whatever. If that would have never happened, I think Nirvana wouldn't be shit at all right now. Like, no one would.
Especially given that their main competition at the time was Pearl Jam, and they actually grew and developed very well, whereas Nirvana started to really develop it, be a little bit more experimental. With their third album, they they didn't have, as a group, any cohesion.
I just think that, like, if you look at the big grunge bands at that point in time, like, this far removed from it, who was still like, yeah, this band's gonna put out a fucking, like, fill in the blank, whether it's Pearl Jam or whatever, this band's about to put out a new album. Fuck yeah. No one cares. Because, like, when they put on shows, people are gonna wait for it, nostalgic purposes. But, like, no one's like, dude, they fucking, like, they're the shit. And I think Nirvana would have been the exact same thing.
How many of them are even still even decent anymore? I mean,
That's
because
what I'm saying.
that's the thing. I mean, Pearl Jam,
Pretty sure he just died. Did anybody else?
Yeah, he just died.
Speaking of quality,
Fucking Courtney Love was like, they're busting me out. Fucking blew Greg's head off just now. Emmanuel, you want to jump in here since Greg is dead now?
you know, I tell you what, he committed suicide back in '94, right?
Correct.
At the ripe age of 2 years old, I didn't even know what suicide was, but I was heartbroken because I went to all of his concerts back when they were touring and everything, and it had a big impact on my life.
Kurt's whole mission was to recapture a lot of what the Beatles did with his own band. And I feel music design wise, yes, but then again, I'm also not a huge fan of the Beatles.
They're okay. I like their shit when it's on, but I never seek it.
Correct. I will listen to, especially some of the cover shit they did with the live show they did, like The Man Who Sold the World and all that. I will listen to that if that's on the fucking radio. If I'm just flipping through and listening to shit, I will not take my time to go seek that shit out, though. Pearl Jam was on and off relevant up until I think it was whenever they re-released 10 in 2012, and then they followed it up with a really, really strong album. You know, it was most definitely their opus magnum, one of their most emotional and well-developed albums, and it was very well received. And then they're like, oh yeah, we can make ourselves relevant again. And then they cranked out some doo-doo just a couple years later, and then they're just like, yeah, we should probably just leave this to die. That's pretty much, I mean, they have solid produced work through the years. It's just that they've always been on the wax and wane constantly.
Essentially what you're saying is that that's the same thing, that you think the direction that Nirvana would have went had that not have happened, like his death not have happened, or would have they just fallen off before that point?
I think they were on the point of collapse before that, because Kurt really wanted to push it, or not. You could definitely tell there was a power struggle, and it was definitely between Kurt and Dave Grohl.
Actually, no, it wasn't. I've read. Have you read the journals that came out as a book?
I did not.
Okay, in his journals, it wasn't him and Dave that there was a power struggle between. It was him and Chris, their bassist. Towards the end of the journals, there are journal entries that of Kurt's that specifically point out Chris as becoming a problem. Kurt was having a hard time getting along with Chris for whatever reason, and he said that he had been talking with Dave, and he was thinking about either them kicking him out of the band or them just, dissolving Nirvana and then him and Dave starting another band afterwards. But obviously, that never came about because, he killed himself. So I guess kind of worked itself out.
Yeah, so one of the things I was ticking on there full cylinder before you left, Greg, was basically Kurt's grand notion was to recapture a lot of the sound design and musical progression that the Beatles had.
Yeah, not only that. Sorry, go ahead.
And they definitely got more progressive as things went on, and I actually think their later stuff had a lot more stronger parts to it. It wasn't a stronger whole piece, but had a lot more stronger parts to it than the shit they first started with.
I could definitely see that. I am a huge Nirvana fan. I was, when Kurt died, that was in April of '94, so I was only 4 years old at the time, and I had never heard any of their music at the time. I did not get into Nirvana until I was about 13 years old in 2003, because I think I've said this before, but I was very, very sheltered as a child and even into my teens from a lot of stuff, mainly music.
Greg, you don't have to say it. We can tell, baby.
Yeah, mainly music. Not so much. TV and movies as well. I was never really allowed to watch The Simpsons growing up, and there are a lot of movies I never got to see until I was much older,
and then he heard "Smells Like Teen Spirit."
Yeah,
changed his life.
Actually, "Smells Like Teen Spirit" was not the first Nirvana song I ever heard. The first Nirvana song I ever heard was "Rape Me,"
and that's what Greg is still praying for.
But it was so funny because I gotta tell this story because this is hilarious.
Is this another Arby's horror story type story?
No, this is another Arby's horror story. Shut the fuck up about that. No.
I saw his grandma's ass.
What happened was that I first discovered
Born in 2003.
about
We've already
Nirvana.
covered. Oh, okay.
No, shut up. Nirvana and Kurt Cobain.
Was that before or after you saw your grandma's ass? Because I feel like that's relevant.
Anyway,
no, I'm super curious about that. Was it before or after you
okay,
saw
I saw my grandma's ass in 2001. Okay, so this was 2 years later.
That's when 9/11 happened.
That is Greg's 9/11. He'll never forget.
I try so hard. I
Ground
drink so
zero,
much,
baby.
But it never goes away.
Did your grandma's ass look like Ground Zero?
I only caught a brief glimpse of it, man, and that was all it took to like just scar me.
The hands of people just coming out of the rubble, coming out of the folds, just wanting help.
We call it an Arby's horror story because that old roasted beef.
Anyway, back to what I was trying to talk about.
You saw those flaps, is what I'm saying.
Back to what I was trying to talk about. I had heard of Nirvana and Kurt Cobain, but for whatever reason, I guess it was because I was so sheltered, I never put the two together. And I remember I was talking on the phone with a friend, and I was just like, it was right after I first heard Nirvana on the radio, and I was like talking with him, and I was like, I forget, is that the band Kurt Cobain was in? And he was just like, yeah. So that just shows how sheltered I was. Like, I did not even know that Kurt Cobain and Nirvana were like linked to each other. And then that was also shortly after I discovered Nirvana that I also found out that Kurt Cobain killed himself. But there was something about Nirvana that when I first discovered them, like it just connected with me, and it just like came like one of those bands that I just developed a very personal like attachment to. They became one of those musical artists that really helped
Define you.
Yeah, shape and define you. I mean, everybody has them. Nirvana was the first band that I discovered around the time when I was first diagnosed with depression, who like I actually genuinely felt like a connection to, like, because, you know, Kurt Cobain suffered from depression. I mean, that's the reason why he killed himself. So I felt like, yeah, I felt like really connected to
be clear, I don't think she had a hand in his murder, except for the fact that she's the reason he was so fucking depressed he killed himself.
Yeah, that is probably true. I mean, she actually admitted in an interview that like their romance was doomed to have something like that happen, like from the start. Yeah, she didn't help. I mean, it doesn't help, you know, when your wife is also a junkie and is constantly jonesing for heroin as well, and when you're feeling suicidal and depressed, and
she's sucking Billy Corgan's cock.
Yeah, and she's like trying and like constantly jonesing for smack too. Like that totally doesn't really help your whole outlook on life. So
how do you fuck Billy Corgan? Like, how do you?
Who the hell's Billy Corgan? Do you mean
Smashing Pumpkins?
Billy Corgan.
Corgan. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Billy Corgan. Yeah. No.
So, real quick, if you want to hear the Arby's horror story in full detail, it is on episode 22 of the podcast. If you want to go hear that story.
Mike's just over this topic already.
In full detail, episode 22. I feel as though Nirvana is Greg's grandma's ass of music.
That is like
I know,
one of the weirdest
which is why you keep.
And I
would prefer talking about Greg's grandma's ass.
Yeah, essentially, I would prefer listening to Greg's grandma's ass over top of listening to Nirvana. No, I don't know. I just my main thing is the only reason I feel like literally the only reason that people even still listen to them or people find them and get heavily into them is due to the fact of his suicide. It's not really that their music is timeless, because I don't feel as though it is. I just feel that like there's this.
It helps a lot.
Yeah, there's this weird kind of like aura, if you will, around it because of the suicide, and because there's this controversy about whether it was suicide or whether it was murder, blah blah blah. There's this whole thing around it with this troubled guy killed himself. Like, imagine what he could have been. I'm like, well, imagine how he would have fell off anyway.
He was already starting to. So,
like, I honestly, like, I would argue that Nirvana's music is timeless, but at the same time, I do have to say that I feel like a lot of the popularity is due to his death. Anybody who really dies at the peak of their career or just as their career is getting started, like, that is especially gonna cement their reputation in the music world. Like, they're gonna become like legends, sort of, because, you know, like you said, it's all that, like, people wonder what their career would have been like had they, you know, continued to live. How like, would it have continued being amazing, or would they have eventually, you know, shit the bed and their career died, or what would have happened? I mean, you never know. I mean,
what is the number one theory about it being a murder, not suicide? What like, I don't give enough of a fuck to do the research, because, like, the evidence that I've seen, like, I'm not, you know, it's his suicide is not 9/11. His suicide is not the assassination of JFK.
yeah,
I literally don't give enough of a fuck to do the
I don't
research.
believe it was a murder either, but the prevailing theory is that Courtney Love hired somebody to kill Kurt Cobain in an attempt to, you know, boost his notoriety and to also, you know, get his money, because once he died, she controlled his estate, and, you know, Nirvana's album sales would shoot up after his death, but she would get a lot of that money, and, you know, then she could just milk the attention that she would get for being the widow of Kurt Cobain for a while. And in fact, a lot of people accused her of, like, exploiting Kurt's death for years after it happened, that she used it for her own financial gain.
and you know, that just seems a little too far-sighted. Honestly, I think the best theory would be bitch was just fucking jealous.
That's true. That's
probably,
another theory.
Like, that seems like to be the most reasonable thing. Like, her looking so, oh yeah, I'll make so much money on record sales and all that. No, bitch is high out of her fucking mind. She's like, I'm fucking better than him. I can make good music too. I'll fucking kill his ass.
Now, everyone's always, did you see Bleach? Did you watch Bleach? And I'm like, the anime, because I didn't like it. And they're like, no, the fucking documentary that proves that Courtney Love fucking killed him. And I'm like,
it raises just as many doubts as it does concern.
Yeah. I never watched it because I heard it was a load of shit.
It was there's like 70 other that do exactly the same and have more damning evidence, that because Bleach is just, it's fucking garbage. Don't watch it. Don't watch it, kids.
So I don't know, like, everyone's like, it's impossible that he could have blown his own head off with a shotgun from this trajectory and blah blah blah. I'm like,
dude, it's not the JFK assassination, okay? It's very reasonable that he could have blown his own head and blown a hole through his head. I mean, Jesus Christ, it's not fucking rocket science.
Yeah, because I mean, he was breaking down, right? Like, things weren't going too well for his mental state as far as that.
No, dude. I mean, he was fucking addicted to heroin. He constantly felt like he had betrayed his original target audience because he signed to a major record label. Despite his attempts at distancing himself from the major rock crowd, he just kept getting associated with it. He had anxiety problems as well, and as somebody who's
stomach issues.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. He had, like, and back problems too. He had horrible back pain. His health, both mental and physical, was just a mess. There was a reason why he started doing heroin, and that's because he was depressed and anxious all the time, and then, you know, his fucking stomach hurt all the time and his back hurt all the time. So no wonder he
I mean, if I had to carry the weight of Courtney Love through life, my back would hurt too.
All right, everybody. What do you think? Put comments down below on what you think. Was it a suicide? Was it a murder?
And regardless of what you say, you're wrong.
Unfortunate.
We'll be back to 30 Minutes of Mayhem after this commercial break.
This is your brain. This is your brain on drugs. This is Greg.
Hi.
Greg, are you a virgin?
Yes.
This is Greg in 30 Minutes of Mayhem apparel. Tell me, Greg, are you still a virgin?
Yes.
Then I don't know what your fucking problem is. because 30 Minutes of Mayhem has gotten me laid.
If you want to help get Greg laid, email us 30minutesofmayhem@gmail.com. Hashtag take Greg's V-card.
Or if you want my face on your body, head over to MayhewMayhem.spreadshirt.com.
Unlike me, maybe a 30 Minutes of Mayhem shirt will have others saturated by your sweet succulence.
I doubt that.
That does it for another episode of 30 Minutes of Mayhem, and I have been your host. My name is Michael Mayhew, and I have been here with my co-hosts,
Greg.
And Nick.
Make sure to check us out on iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, all those different locations, and donate to us on PayPal using 30minutesofmayhem@gmail.com. That's it. I hope you have enjoyed this episode. And, later, fellas.